First and foremost, I would like to thank you so much for clicking on this video today. It is your girl, Gypsy Rose DeVille. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to my channel, like and share this video, and don't forget to click that notification bell so that you don't miss any of my content. The video that I am sharing with you today is going to break down everything that you need to know about hidden truths about narcissists. This topic is personal to me because I am a victim of narcissistic abuse. I'm realizing now that many of us have suffered from this, and because it's not discussed, especially in the African American community, we did not realize that this was a form of abuse. So I am going to give you some details that you could pay attention to when dealing with individuals that you just meet for the first time, or maybe even in reevaluating people who are already in your life. And these tips and tricks are going to help you recognize when you are dealing with a narcissist, when you are dealing with someone who is actually suffering from narcissistic personality disorder, and what it means to be a victim of narcissistic abuse. So without further ado, I present to you hidden truths about narcissists. So the topics that we will be discussing are identifying a narcissist, inside the mind of a narcissist, different types of narcissists, what motivates a narcissist, and narcissistic abuse and betrayal trauma. Most have a general concept of what a narcissist is and can identify some people they have crossed paths with that could possibly be labeled as such. However, this topic is far more complicated than originally perceived. I'm going to reveal some facts about this personality type that may assist you in not only identifying these personalities more quickly, but also advise as to how to best deal with them. Identifying a narcissist. Often we hear the word narcissist and assume we can identify one easily based on our general knowledge. However, this word has been misused and misunderstood tremendously. A narcissist is defined as a person who has an excessive interest in or admiration of themselves. In all actuality, everyone has the capacity to display this type of personality trait. For example, an artist or musician can often display this trait when speaking on their craft. Anyone who has ever competed in anything can also recall their mindset believing that they are better than their opponent in order to succeed or beat the competition. And before you judge this characteristic, you must first accept that we live in a world that forces self-absorption on some level or another. The various ways in which expresses this may vary, and the levels in which we may obsess may be different as well. Nonetheless, we all have this capability to become me-focused. Narcissism is a personality trait defined as selfishness, involving a sense of entitlement, a lack of empathy, and a need for admiration as characterizing a personality type. However, a true narcissist does not actually think very highly of themselves, and this is the misconception. And it is due to this deeply rooted insecurity that causes anyone who tries to care for them to become their victim. Now, I'm going to ask a couple of questions that can maybe help you identify if you are dealing with a narcissist. Did your partner sweep you up in a whirlwind romance in the beginning to later have you caught up in a traumatic emotional roller coaster? Does your partner tend to disappear or give you long periods of silent treatment undeserved? Do you feel like you must walk on eggshells because your partner tends to get upset easily? Does your partner tend to ignore your emotions or needs in situations until the same situation happens to them, but now the whole world must come to an end? Does your partner have extreme reactions or responses to the slightest amount of criticism? Do you have to constantly justify or hide the behavior of your partner to others? Do you feel you are constantly having the same argument no matter how much your partner promises to change? Does your partner act super entitled with no justification? Does your partner seem to be two-faced when talking about others they claim to be close to? Are you constantly left with feelings of guilt or confusion after every argument, even when you know you've done nothing wrong? Does your partner seem to have a separate life from the one they share with you? Are you constantly catching your partner in lies or contradictions that are deflected or gaslighted rather than answered. So let's discuss a couple common behavioral traits when it comes to a true narcissist. Love bombing. This is the charismatic romantic pursuit that includes a whirlwind romance, gifting, immense attention, and acts of service. They will engage in deep, meaningful conversations and make you so comfortable that you expose some of your most deepest secrets. And this is them posing as your best friend. Usually has a backstory that is traumatizing or portrays them as a victim, causing you to become emotionally invested. They also usually have an immediate change in behavior and personality as soon as they feel they have their victim hooked. Constant lies and manipulation, usually throws tantrums or blows up if ever disagreed with or criticized, and will often start unnecessary arguments, gaslighting and deflecting situations, and will often ghost you for prolonged periods of time, only to return with the love bombing and repeating the cycle all over again. So this is what I really want you to pay attention to. Narcissistic personality disorder. Narcissistic personality disorder is an actual mental health condition, only recently clinically diagnosed as one, in which people have an unreasonably high sense of their own importance, to which becomes their own detriment. Exhibiting the same traits as any other narcissist, lacking the ability to understand or care about the feelings of others, but pushes limits to the point of self-destruction. In other words, this type of disorder will not only cause the narcissist to disrupt or destroy the lives of others, but ultimately their own. They often do not even want to do the things they do anymore and honestly have no clue how to stop. It can be described as the point that the narcissist loses control of their actions and objectives. Inside the mind of a narcissist. Narcissists are developed due to trauma, probably from childhood, that left them feeling abandoned, oppressed, or abused. Narcissists hate themselves, so they create personas that allow them to look on the outside what they wish they felt on the inside. Narcissists believe the entire world is against them and nobody cares about them. Narcissists are extremely jealous because they feel an emptiness inside, and no matter how much they acquire, they are never satisfied. Narcissists feel a sense of entitlement and rarely do anything to deserve the things they covet. Narcissists are incapable of being happy, forming genuine bonds, holding themselves accountable, or empathy. They also believe everyone else is secretly just like them, only further allows them justification in their behavior. Narcissists secretly hate anyone they feel is better than them, whether these are material possessions to even someone with a strong sense of self. Narcissists like to surround themselves with individuals who they deem to be beneath them to make themselves feel better. Narcissists are prone to gravitate towards individuals who have some sort of lack compared to them, have a giving nature, and are selfless. Narcissists thrive on manipulation and tend to lead double lives. They get a high from lying and creating chaos. They can hide behind their false mask for an extensive amount of time, giving them the ability to go so far as to fake a relationship long enough to execute their plan of bringing the individual down. Narcissists must always be in control in order to maintain their lies, manipulation, and double lives. So now let's discuss how narcissists actually choose their victims. Narcissists tend to gravitate to people with the following characteristics. Someone looking for companionship, in which they will figure out how to become your very best friend. Someone highly compassionate, selfless, feels obligated to duty and service, and nurturing. These individuals will more easily allow their boundaries to be crossed and be easier to manipulate for longer periods. Someone willing to discuss extremely personal matters so that they can use them against you later. Someone who does not like their lives displayed publicly because they use this to their advantage, knowing that you care about your reputation and will less likely expose them. And also someone willing to argue. This serves to their advantage in future gaslighting tactics of bringing you down to their level. When a narcissist is on the hunt. Narcissists are often more emotionally intelligent than giving credit, and this is their greatest weapon for catching their prey. They are very intuitive and tend to approach individuals who are selfless, loyal, and givers, and have the patience to wait until they spot a vulnerability, using this tool to not only keep their ability to hide their true selves and intentions for prolonged periods of time, but to also connect on an emotional level that creates a codependency. They create a false sense of security in which one feels as though they are the best things that ever happened to the narcissist, and they have someone who finally understands them. This is all part of the narcissist's plan to solidify this false persona they've created in their victim's head of the person they want to be viewed as, so that their future behavior will appear as out of character. Narcissistic injury. Narcissistic injury occurs whenever a narcissist feels under attack. They already suffer from low self-esteem and insecurities, so any form of judgment, ridicule, or exposure will cause this injury to their ego. This will result in the unmasking of the narcissist, as they are unable to handle criticism or their own guilt and shame. Narcissists will immediately become defensive, verbally abusive, and sometimes even violent. They will begin feeling their underlying hatred for you on the surface and will punish you by finding a reason that you are at fault, going so far as to rally their troops against you with their false narratives. They will then do one of the following: separate themselves from you and cut off all communication, and or begin constructing a plot for revenge. Different types of narcissists. Contrary to popular belief, there are more than one type of narcissist. Currently, they have defined at least 4 types of narcissists: the grandiose, the malignant, the covert, and the communal. The grandiose narcissist is your classic narcissist, the entitled, lacking empathy, egotistical, attention, validation seeking, and arrogant individual. They like to showboat and portray a life of opulence. The charismatic or personable interactions will make others comfortable with them quickly, which allows them to network easily and remain the center of attention. The malignant is everything the grandiose narcissist is, but also really mean and has no problem doing malicious or harmful things to others, taking pleasure in their cruelty, especially to those they know care about them most. The covert narcissist is what you can consider the secret narcissist. They play victim often, far more passive-aggressive, and have humbled their true nature. Rather than boasting and bragging about a life of opulence, they usually appear as depressed or lacking self-esteem and blame the world for their miserable life. The communal narcissist will appear as a do-gooder, but only does things for attention, validation, and accolades. They need their services publicized. So out of the various type of narcissists that I have discussed, the most dangerous and least common type is the narcissistic leader. The narcissistic leader is the least common because most narcissists are not able to successfully conceal their true intentions while dealing with too many in their circles, due to their need to control everything and everyone, as well as their desire to have all attention on them. Another thing that makes them unusual is that they have the highest level of self-esteem of all the various narcissists, which they maintain through their status and power. The narcissistic leader is also the most dangerous because they are able to deceive the masses to lead a cause or incite panic and chaos. What motivates a narcissist? Key motivations. Narcissists have extremely patterned mindsets, which are usually motivated by one of the following: sex, envy, or revenge. Sex. Narcissists are extremely sexual and thrive on collecting as many sexual partners as possible. The grooming and love bombing phase has the sole purpose of guaranteeing their chances of getting sex from their intended victims. They feel their victims are obligated to give them sex anytime and anywhere. They also use sex as a tool to hook and control their victims. Envy. Narcissists, being extremely insecure and jealous, they are extremely materialistic and make decisions that guarantee more material possessions. They tend to surround themselves with people who they feel are beneath them, and if they ever seem to gain an edge, will remove them. They are usually jealous of their victims as well, because they hate their goodness and will plot to bring them down to their level. Revenge. Narcissists are extremely vengeful, to the point of blinding obsession. They tend to turn this energy on their victims that they feel get away from them. Narcissistic supply. Narcissists have an empty pit within them, stemming from the deep-seated insecurity and shame. It is too painful for them to look within for self-reflection and healing. So instead, they rather look outward to their victims for immediate gratification. Understand that there is nothing anyone will ever be able to do, or any amount of material possessions that will fulfill the narcissist. However, their victims provide temporary relief through narcissistic supply they provide. A narcissistic supply is anything that feeds their ego. This supply can range from the following: appraisal and accolades, codependency, sex, material possessions, control, abuse, mental, physical, emotional, or sexual, manipulation, and within degrading or discarding their victim. Narcissistic abuse and betrayal trauma. So because narcissistic abuse looks a little differently than the average abusive relationship, whereas a person is not getting physically beat down every day, this type of abuse is a little more passive, a little less obvious, and happens over time. It's usually after the victim has fallen for their narcissist hook, line, and sinker before they even see some of these behaviors. So this is what narcissistic abuse looks like. The narcissist will be extremely controlling and jealous of your time and attention. They will often have fits of rage that escalate to violence. They constantly betray you through lies, cheating, and manipulation. They have various sexual partners and will not care about risking your health. They gaslight and deflect to the point of making you feel as though you're going insane. They create smear campaigns behind your back to ensure that others view you in a negative way while hiding their guilty actions. They will use the information shared with them in confidence against you in the most spiteful ways. They live double lives that include other partners, children, to even stealing and hiding money or illegal activities behind your back. They will use ghosting and silent treatments, which usually are used to their advantage when living those double lives, leaving one feeling abandoned and without closure. They feel entitled to sex anytime and any place and will forcefully take it even if not consented. They keep you on an emotional roller coaster with a hot and cold act as you repeat the cycle of love bombing all the way through suffering abandonment. They create agendas for revenge in their minds that will be set on your destruction, even if undeserved. And they enjoy making and watching you suffer. Trauma bonds. A trauma bond is connection in which the victim feels obligated to justify or rationalize the abuse. It is when they feel the abuse is their fault, which is a direct result of some form of PTSD. Because of how a narcissist begins a relationship, they form bonds with their victims early that become a codependency. They can become the image of anyone's perfect mate, while strategically revealing certain weaknesses they possess in a way that appears as they are trying to become even better people. This lays a foundation so that in the future, when a narcissist misbehaves, the victim still holds this image they remember from the beginning and believe the misbehavior is out of character. This, combined with the gaslighting and deflecting, followed by love bombing, creates an insecurity within the victim that allows the misbehavior to continue. The misbehavior will innately worsen over time, and the narcissist will become extremely abusive, which further instills the victim's guilt and insecurity. Remaining in this continuous cycle for prolonged periods of time solidifies the trauma bond. Breaking up with a narcissist. Narcissists typically have agendas to leave their victims before their victims can leave them. This agenda usually includes a backup plan, secret lover, and sometimes children, because they depend on their supplies to maintain any level of stability emotionally. Otherwise, they will suffer tremendously, even more than they already do. They also hate to lose and would rather prefer to leave you heartbroken, in lack, and without closure. For those who do happen to break up with a narcissist first, at least one of the following is guaranteed. The narcissist will throw a tantrum that exposes their true toxic, abusive nature through their new level of cruel, dismissive, and disrespectful behavior. The narcissist will fall into a deep depression, creating a story to gain pity from the victim, instill guilt for leaving, and make the victim feel obligated to help. The narcissist will begin a smear campaign to get ahead of the narrative. The narcissist will begin plotting revenge, which will include love bombing to get back in good, giving them enough time to carry out their original agenda with their backup plan. If a narcissist wants to make up. Narcissists do not like when relationships end on any terms other than their own. If they know they are guilty of hurting or disappointing their victim, they will want to change their perspective to ensure to maintain their power. It is not that they feel remorse or even care about your feelings, but rather they must control the narrative in all aspects of their lives. Narcissists are creatures of habits and will always utilize the following techniques when attempting to get back into their victim's good graces. They will first avoid communication to avoid having to admit fault or apologize, hoping that their victim will have gotten over it. Their favorite deflection is claiming to be giving their victim space. They will insist on communicating as though nothing ever happened and will accuse the victim of holding on to the past or being negative as a gaslighting tactic if the conversation is insisted. They will offer a vague apology while continuing to gaslight by making themselves the victim and will appear to be agreeable to your perspective. However, this is only to get the victim to let the conversation die quickly. They will also use sex to their advantage as a weapon, arrogantly believing that this will distract their victim from the actual issues. What is betrayal trauma? Betrayal trauma could best be described as a combination of stockholder syndrome, PTSD, and the grieving process. Often overlooked is the healing process one must endure once they officially rid themselves of their abuser. It is no different than any other trauma suffered, such as a victim of assault or someone grieving the sudden loss of a loved one. Betrayal trauma stems from having an intimate relationship with a narcissist for long periods of time, to only be blindsided by a traumatic ending where a malicious betrayal is revealed and the narcissist shows not even the least bit of remorse. This type of betrayal is paralyzing because the victim will truly meet the narcissist for the first time and realize they never knew them. It will expose something done in secret that the victim could have never predicted or prepared for, as they realize they have been dealing with someone who is heartless, ruthless, and sadistic. The narcissist will have also ensured to leave their victim with some level of lack, whether it's economically or emotionally. Betrayal trauma does not always appear like typical depression. It is more so an unspoken internal battle that the victim usually suffers in silence. Due to the negative economic impact on the victim's life, courtesy of their narcissist, the victim is now forced to accept their new reality as the realization sets in that the entire relationship was a lie. The victim will then begin to reflect on their trauma bond and the prolonged abuse they suffered. Along with this new level of abuse, they are now experiencing the separation, replaying events over and over in their head, trying to find understanding. This becomes a constant emotional roller coaster with feelings of abandonment, hatred, longing for closure, or to be back with the abuser, grief and depression, guilt or shame for not leaving sooner, and wanting revenge. It is a hard reality to come to when facing a fact that you have been in an abusive relationship with someone who may suffer from narcissistic personality disorder. It is even harder to accept when your heart still belongs to this person. So, of course, the question now becomes, what do I do now? This is not an easy question to answer, nor is it an easy answer to hear. But the bottom line is, you are now at a crossroads, and you have to make a decision on which way you are going to go. Are you going to continue the same cycle, even though you know what you need to know to make an informed decision now? Or are you finally going to choose you? This is actually an opportunity to do what most of us avoid doing most of our lives. And this is digging deep with self-reflection to figure out how you ended up in this position in the first place. In doing so, most of us will find that it directly correlates to traumatic events from childhood that we have yet to truly heal from and continue to perpetuate in our lives. Self-reflection and inner child healing can be extremely painful, causing most to abandon the process. However, it is a choice to continue allowing others to determine your worth and have power over you and your emotions. It is a choice to teach people how to treat you based on what you believe you deserve and your worth. Which is why the most important critical step in this process will always be to first determine your worth. Additional suggestions for separating from your narcissistic abuser are to take advantage of their silent treatment. Completely cut off all communication, including social media. Begin making a list of pros and cons regarding the relationship. Remove all reminders from your home and officially separate anything that connects the two of you. Give yourself a makeover. Seek counseling or therapy. Focus attention on anything else, even if it means leaning on friends and family for companionship and affection. So I hope that this video was helpful in helping you to better understand exactly what goes on inside the mind of a narcissist to make them behave the way that they do. I want you to seriously take heed to the fact that most narcissists cannot be exposed right away. But if you pay attention to just some of the key behavioral traits, such as the gaslighting or the disregarding of your feelings, or how easily they tend to disappear or cut off communication for absolutely no reason at all, or constantly leaving you feeling guilty or confused about situations which you already know the answers to. Just know that narcissists can hide their true identities for extended amounts of time and can infiltrate your world undetected. The more you know about the signs you should pay attention to, the quicker they can be exposed and eradicated.